What's up, captains? I'm recording this, as you can see, if you're watching the YouTube video, in my hotel room in New York, because yesterday I just interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk, and that episode will be going live on Valentine's Day, February 14th. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you are subscribed to the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast, especially over on YouTube, so you can watch it, because you're going to want to be viewing this one instead of just listening to it. The link will be in the show notes or the description of this podcast. Before we dive into today's interview with Patrick Clarke, I've been getting a lot of questions on my personal coaching. So the Captain's Lifestyle Program is where I only coach impact-driven entrepreneurs, but of course, everybody can benefit from the 6 pillars of the Captain's Lifestyle, being mindset, vision, brain health, sleep, communication, nutrition, exercise, and biohacking. So I have created the Captain's Lifestyle Blueprint. This is where I can coach anybody. So we're going to hop on a 2-hour initial consultation call to where I learn everything about how you spend your day, how you structure your week, your morning routine, evening routine, what you eat, what you do throughout your workday, all that sort of thing. So I can create a custom blueprint for you guys that walks you through literally everything that I recommend you do step by step. So it's literally a blueprint of how to live the Captain's Lifestyle on a day-to-day basis. It's roughly a 12 to 15 page PDF where I detail all of my personal recommendations for you, from supplement protocols to stress management protocols to my recommended foods, my recommended exercises, all based on your specific goals. So if you want more information on the Captain's Lifestyle Blueprint, then you can click the link in the description, and that will take you to book a call, and we can see if you would be a good fit for the blueprint. Now, again, before we dive into the podcast with Patrick, I want to show you the bracelet that I got from Cape Clasp. So as you'll hear, Cape Clasp is Patrick's brand. So this is the Cape Clasp bracelet. This other one is 4Ocean, which Cape Clasp is very similar to 4Ocean. You guys might have heard of 4Ocean. They're very popular. They each bracelet is made out of recycled plastic that they collect. And for each purchase of a bracelet, 4Ocean pulls a pound of plastic from the coastlines and ocean, which is super cool. And Cape Clasp is something very similar, which you will learn in this podcast. And I had to get this anchor bracelet because look how sweet that is. And there will also be a discount link for $10 off of anything from Cape Clasp. They have bracelets, they have necklaces, they have, well, you'll hear in the podcast all the stuff that they got. It's awesome. And they are supporting a good cause, of course, which is why I had to have them on my show. So again, a discount link for $10 off will be in the description of this podcast. Now, with all that being said, let's get right into today's interview with Patrick Clarke. Now on to today's show with Patrick Clarke. Patrick is the founder of Cape Clasp, which was founded in 2013. He created a bracelet shaped like Cape Cod and developed a nonprofit partnership model with the Cape Cod National Seashore. He shared his story on social media, and after selling out of his first batch, started to think of ways to expand their line to support more nonprofit causes. Today, Cape Clasp is a purpose-driven brand with a mission to #make waves for marine life causes. So Patrick, welcome to the Captain's Lifestyle.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Sweet. So let's dive into the beginnings of Cape Clasp. So talk to us about what got this idea started.
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up, I spent all my time on Cape Cod. That's like home here, basically the beach, the East Coast of Massachusetts. Spent all my time, a lot of it was spent like caddying and hanging out with friends, here in Woods Hole, Falmouth, where we live. And then in 2009, I graduated from college. I got a job up in Boston, and I really felt like I was losing this connection to the Cape that I'd had my whole life. I met all my best friends down here, really had all my best memories down here, but I was really only getting here on the weekends and had really lost touch with I didn't feel like I had a pulse on what was going on. Kind of at the same time, maybe this is a couple of years later, obviously, but Instagram came out, and I was like, it was a great way to share and kind of share things with friends. And I thought wow, it'd be really cool to show all my favorite things to do around Cape and the islands. So we started, the first idea we had was just to do some like geocaches where we like show an iconic, spot on the Cape where, could take a cool picture, but then say, hey, if you track down this geocache, here are the coordinates. And that idea, it was like, kind of just the very beginnings of like, wow, this is really fun. I'm kind of building something that's, totally outside my day job and the stuff I was doing up in Boston that I didn't really like, which was in financial services. The idea was like, wow, what could we put that was a cool keepsake into these geocaches? And eventually, the idea came to me. We were on a trip to New York City, a couple of buddies of mine, and I saw these fish hook bracelets. So it's basically a fish hook and cord. And I was like, oh, Cape Cod's a hook. I wonder why no one's made a bracelet like that before. And it was kind of right at the advent of like 3D printing was getting really easy to, jewelry can be very difficult to make if you don't know what you're doing at, silversmithing and all this very, technical work. But with 3D printing, it kind of made that a lot easier. And it just became this fun rabbit hole I went down, like, all right, how do I make this bracelet? And that was kind of the original, that's where at that time I changed my Instagram handle from like, I don't even know what it was. It was probably something around my name or something, but I changed it to Cape Clasp. And then we started putting these Cape Clasp bracelets in these geocaches. So that's kind of like the origin story. Yeah.
Sweet. I love it. And now it's grown your Instagram. What do you have? Like over 160,000 followers, something like that?
Yeah. It's right around there.
Yeah. Cool. So talk to us about how you sold out of the first batch. I think that's super cool that people grabbed onto this idea.
Yeah. I think it was, that first summer, it was really, I'm not like a sales person at my core. It's just not, what I love to do. So there were just some like fortuitous events. Like one time I walked into a gift shop and the guy at the gift shop, the guy who owned it was like, oh, where'd you get that bracelet? And I was like, oh, I just started making these. And he was our first wholesale client. He placed an order that day. And, I remember it so well because it was like, I just walked into this shop and then I walked, he wrote me a check for like $700. And at the time I was like, I still like love making $700. It was just, I was like, wow. I mean, I work all day in like an office for, half that or whatever, less. And so I was like, God, I got to kind of, keep exploring this idea. And so, people were reaching out to me through Instagram. I got a PayPal. I started 3D printing them for other people. And that was very expensive, but still was like, an easy way to get it off the ground with literally, very little startup expense. From there, I was like, God, I got to start the first batch was sold out through like, building a free website on Big Cartel, which is like a Shopify alternative. But they allow you to have 5 free products. And I was like, I just was trying to do it, bootstrap it as much as possible, not invest more than I was making out of the business, week to week. Cause I was just a guy who just gotten out of college. I had no money. So, that summer, I think I just placed a minimum order with a casting house. And we still work with them today, but it was like, he was like, well, we can't do all this unless you ordered 500 pieces, I think it was initially. And at the same time I needed some packaging and I wanted these like cool little hang tags that I'd seen on a similar product. And I had to buy like 2,000 of those at once. And so I remember that was my like barometer for how the business was doing is, am I using this, mason jar full of the clasps and am I, running out of cord and am I using this huge box of tags that I, bought at the end of the summer? Yeah, we had sold, I mean, it wasn't a big number. It was probably 500 pieces max or something like that. But it was enough to say, God, like, I really enjoy doing this. And it's a cool way for me to, give back to the local community at the time. And through the Cape Cod National Seashore. And also just, it was a cool way to kind of frame the stuff I love to do.
Isn't it cool how things work out like that? Like you just walk into that gift shop and everything happens for a reason. And he saw that. He's like, wow, that's really cool. And then you're off to the races from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that definitely gave, that one event, like, to some, I could also see someone seeing the bracelet and being like, what the, especially if you're not from Cape Cod or from here, like, what the hell is that? Like, that's a weird thing. And, it gave me a ton of confidence knowing that this guy who, it's like, if you find the right market, things like this can really work. And it gave me a lot of confidence to, go into the next store and say, hey, I'd love for you to carry, this line or start marketing it online and start posting more pictures of it. That was definitely, that event definitely changed a lot for sure.
So when did you notice, when was the point where you noticed that this was really starting to take off?
I always say, like, we've never had any absolutely hallmark events that have happened throughout the life of the company where I just felt like, all right, now it's working. Now I still don't feel like, we're like a going concern and we're just kind of, it was really after we made that Cape one, there was an organization that was at the time had recently started, but now is a big organization called Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. They are kind of the authority for shark research and conservation on Cape Cod. They tag sharks. They run the Sharktivity app, which is a kind of early detection and warning system for Cape Cod. So like if a shark is seen off a beach, someone can log it and that beach will be notified or the correct people will be notified. And so, at the time they were just starting out and we made a bracelet shaped like a shark using the same kind of design philosophy we created with the Cape one. And to be honest, I didn't have a huge, other than I didn't have an expectation that it would do much better than the Cape one. I just, I thought we'd tap into some of our existing customers and maybe some people really like sharks would buy it. But as soon as we launched it, Atlantic White Shark was like, hey, we have a lot of supporters overseas who want to be able to purchase this and you don't offer international shipping. And the product started to sell fairly well. And it still is one of our hallmark designs. It's you'll see a lot of, early on, we've gotten better at it now, but we didn't do a great job of protecting that design. So there are a lot of, fakes on Alibaba and stuff, made of zinc oxide. And so really just bottom feeding, low budget options. Yeah. That moment, when I was like, God, we're shipping these all over the world. And it still wasn't big numbers, but it was kind of like, I guess at that time, I didn't understand the power of e-commerce and how you can tap into a market, with the right product, it can really work. And I had no, before that, I wasn't really a social media user. I wasn't really a e-commerce. I wasn't buying everything online. It was kind of a surprise to me. And so that was really when I started to think, wow, I can build this into, a business. But that was still, years before I quit my job and pursued it full time. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, that leads in perfectly to my next question, which is exactly that. Like, how long were you doing both? Like, how long did you have your 9-to-5 day job and then doing Cape Clasp on the side?
Yeah, I would say at least, it had to have been at least 5 years. So I was kind of a side project that I was putting all the effort and kind of, was treating it like it was a business and kind of learning the ropes of, social media, e-commerce, all the back end stuff around like editing photos and building video and kind of, at some point I really had no real interest in what I was doing at my job. I wouldn't now I worked in financial services in a marketing kind of role, but I had to write like a weekly update about the high grade and bond market. And now I don't even read the newspaper. I'm just like, it just was something I never would do unless I was kind of I fell into, it was, I still, that company and that job and kind of that experience through two, it was actually two different companies when I was up in Boston, but that experience was huge because, I kind of got to see how a bigger company is organized and how it runs. And, there are a lot of things that carry over to even, my company now where I'm like, oh, I remember how they did it over there and that worked really well. Or, oh, now I can understand why they did this. And, as you start to grow. So yeah, it was probably 5 years. And then there was just a point where there's like a famous quote that's like inside every great entrepreneur is a bad employee. And I knew I wasn't putting the work in. And I also knew that, I could really jump ship and it was still just me and my girlfriend at the time, but my wife now who was helping me with it. And I was like, I'm going to go all in and see, it was now or never. It was like, it was really, and at the time I really could not have done both any longer. I was upsetting customers on the Cape Clasp side because we were, late with orders and not getting back to customer service. And that didn't feel good. And then I was getting, catching flack at work where I just wasn't, meeting my goals for the year and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was just the right time, but I really waited as long as I could because I knew once you do it, I didn't take a salary for so long because it's just, the business was, I really quit the business when it kind of was like doing the revenue that my, salary was making. And I had I went to school for business, but I had just such a basic understanding of this stuff that I was just like, oh yeah, now this company is as big as my salary, but at the same time, it's like that doesn't support a salary. The business is not supporting my salary at all. So there were, that was, but at the same time, I was like, I had to give up one and I wasn't giving up Cape Clasp for sure.
Yeah. Well, I say, fuck a salary. If you're happier doing what you're doing now, like how much happier are you doing Cape Clasp than you were with the finance job?
Absolutely. There's absolutely no comparison. You're in control of your days. I feel like I can, really move the needle on a daily basis with a phone call or or the right ideas. Whereas at my job, I just, was waiting for that next performance review. There was no real understanding of like, even if I wanted to take an aggressive career path, and this was an industry where you could stand to make a lot of money. I just didn't know where that, like, I didn't know what beyond working late and getting there early, like, I just didn't really understand how I could, progress. And I'm sure there are corporate opportunities where you can do well. I'm not saying it's, I'm just my own personal experience.
Yeah. Not for me either. No, thank you. I would much rather prefer to make my own schedule and not do it for the money. Although now I'm making more money than I was doing any other job that I had in the past. And I'm sure it's the same for you. It's better money because you're happier and more fulfilled doing what you love. And no amount of money in the world could ever replace that. If you're not happy, then what's the point of all the money and the long hours? And you bring up another good point of, you kind of waited till as long as you could because you were slacking on both. And I tell my clients this all the time, like, because a lot of them do still have a 9-to-5 and a startup, and they're trying to do both at once, which you can for a period of time, but sooner or later, you got to cut one loose. If you don't enjoy it, if you truly enjoy both of them, there's ways that we can do that. But in your case, you didn't enjoy your finance job. That wasn't bringing you energy, right? So that was draining you energy from what you were truly passionate about, which is Cape Clasp. So what was the final decision to have you say, okay, now I'm going all in on Cape Clasp?
Yeah, I think it was really like what I felt at the time was like a mastery of how can I make this grow, right? And what could I do? Like, there were times, even years in, where if I did not have to go to work that day, I don't know what I would have done for Cape Clasp. Like, it's just like I didn't really know exactly what it took to build a business, to continue to grow a business. Like, and so I wasn't sure, like, where do I like, do I make ads, or do I like, how do I grow my audience? How do I bring traffic to the website? Like, now I look back with hindsight and I'm like, God, I should have quit my job. There was like this, gold rush of e-commerce stuff that, I could have been a part of if I knew more at the time. But yeah, yep. The only kind of regret is just, and it's not even valid, is just like, I wish I could have started earlier, so I knew all this stuff earlier. But I didn't really get into it until after I'd already graduated from college, taken a job, done all that stuff. So it was really when I felt like I knew what I would do if I woke up tomorrow and I didn't go to this job. I know what I would do, for the next month. Like, and then that bleeds into exactly when we, like, people would be like, God, you're doing all of this on your own. Like, what, like, you should hire someone. And at the time I was like, if I hire someone, I don't even know what I would ask them to do. Right. Like, I just didn't know, like, what I could, like, offload, or what tasks we have during the day that would roll up into a good role for someone. And even that process took a long time for us. And, now, we have team members I couldn't imagine not working with. Right. So it's like, it's all about, like, just kind of having confidence in you. For me, it was having confidence in my skill set, that I'm not going into this blind. I know I have a strategy, and you could, like, I'm wrong all the time still, but I'm at least executing some kind of idea that I'm, at the time, confident about.
Boom. It's all about failure, failing forward, learning from it, implementing, speed, right? Nothing gets done as an entrepreneur if you wait till it's perfect. And there's two forms of entrepreneurship, or getting into entrepreneurship. There's the method that you used, which is have this as a side gig for a while you still have your 9-to-5. And then there's the method that I prefer, which is burn the ships at the shore. Like, when you have something that you're more passionate about and that you want to work in, I say, well, it depends on the person, but what works for me is quitting whatever is not bringing me energy and going full on into this. And I try to tell my clients, when they're in that situation where they have a 9-to-5 and they want to build their startup, to jump and grow wings on the way down. I think, and you just confirmed this too, that you should always go before you feel ready, because it's never going to feel 100% ready. It's not going to be like a comfortable situation to give up this seemingly secure salary to go into what you're building. Right. So talk to us a little bit about whether or not it was a comfortable situation, and if you had any doubts.
No, it definitely wasn't a comfortable situation. I think it was, I do totally agree with what you're saying. I think, like, at the time, it was like there was probably a year's worth of time where I should have already left, and I just was dragging my feet. And it is really hard to say goodbye to, like, your annual salary at a company, benefits, all this stuff. And it's more like, I think, more than anything, I think I was using things like it was a fear of the unknown. Like, well, what do I do about benefits if I don't have a job? And, I use that as kind of a crutch of, like, well, I need benefits. And then it's like, well, you can get benefits if you work on your own too. So I just hadn't done the research. I hadn't figured out. I think in a lot of cases, people are just getting in their own way, right? You're just, like, creating excuses, creating a mindset of letting these, things, there was just a breaking point for me where I was just like, all right, I wasn't going to I had to pick one, and I wasn't going to pick the job. So, I think that was kind of what was, I never, but I think the difference was I didn't build it like for me, it was just like a fun way to frame the stuff I love to do. And it gave me a lot of energy getting out. It was like kind of like my, like it was more fun to talk about that than it was to talk about my job if I was out in public or, I was out with friends. Like that was what people wanted to talk about also, just as a much more, for me, it was a much more interesting path and an interesting story. And so, but if you just keep, chasing that, if you're business minded and you like growing something like that, at some point it goes from being a side project or a, kind of side hustle, just being like, yeah, I can continue to grow this. I can continue to build a business. And that was where, when I had that confidence, that's when I was really, confident enough to start doing this full time. But yeah, it's definitely not easy. It's definitely something that, that takes a leap of faith for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So why do you think it has succeeded? Like, why do you think it has continued to grow after all these years?
I think, part of it is we've really leaned into the things that are working for us. So one was nonprofit partnerships and unique designs that no one else was making. So like when we made a great white shark bracelet, there was no one making a great white shark bracelet like that, especially at our price point, right? There were some very, ornate things you could find on Etsy or something like that if you were really looking for the right gift. And so I think like just an iterative model like that, where, that obviously can't go on forever with something that has, there's only so many marine life creatures that you could turn into bracelets or rings or whatever we're doing at the time. But like kind of an iterative model of like, okay, we can do this again and again. I think that was one of the things that definitely led to some success. I think like, realizing that the more time we spent and leveraged Instagram to build an organic audience, and kind of figuring out what works for us there, was another thing that just was vitally important. I think like, at one point it was all about, for us, it was all about landscape photography. There was no personality to the brand. And then I realized if we put my dog or my wife in a photo, those photos were doing better. And then when stories came out, I really pushed myself to try to talk in front of the camera. And, I'm not, I would say I'm way more comfortable now, but it's still not my, something I would typically do day to day. So we do a lot of voiceover stuff now. And like, you got to find what works for you. But it was kind of like, a combination of kind of some kind of growing product line, because for a business like ours, you could not just lean on one or two products forever, and a way to reach customers that did not rely on paid advertising all the time. And then just really, continuing to learn the tools, learn the different avenues you could reach customers, like if a new platform like TikTok, we've leaned into TikTok as much as we can. We've tried Snapchat, never really got a footing there, but it's really, I think we're not afraid to kind of learn the latest platform, try the latest sales channel. So like, Amazon, or sorry, like Shopify will open up channels that are third party. So we've had, we put our products on Etsy as a test, and we had a few that sold really well on Etsy, and then we did the same thing on Amazon. And now there are new channels opening up that, could get you worldwide customers. I mean, we try all of that stuff, and some of it is a waste of time. We tried, eBay, and because it's just, there's some success. Any of those, Amazon, eBay, they're all really, search engines. And so people are searching for stuff like great white shark jewelry or something like that. But for some reason that one never worked for us. So we just kind of, you cut your losses and move on. So it's like, we're always trying new things too. I think that's super important. And yeah, I think it's like, we don't try, like you were saying earlier, it's like, we don't try to be perfect. A lot of our videos now, or, content we post, like, we've had, two of our best performing, pieces of content this year, just like, videos that me and our creative director, Tyler, we just run and gun, go out with one of our nonprofit partners, shoot for the day, and we'll literally launch the video the next day. We shoot with minimal equipment. We have a very tight setup, and he helps with a lot of the kind of creative aspects of it. And then I'll just, bang out the edit. There's a lot of value and a lot of free attention you get from doing that stuff that brings a lot of eyeballs to your brand that otherwise would never be aware of you. And if you can iterate on that very quickly and not with minimal overhead, that is super important too.
Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to try new things and double down on what's working. Spoken like a true entrepreneur. Love it.
Yeah.
So I think one of the reasons why you had success initially was that you did partner with nonprofits. And so it wasn't just a cool looking bracelet. Like, it was a bracelet for a cause. Like, there was a purpose behind what you were creating. And now you're working with a whole bunch of different nonprofits. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sometimes I overlook that because it's just at the core of what we do is really, partnering with nonprofit causes. So most of them are ocean and marine life, efforts. A lot of most of them local here around Cape Cod, and the idea being that, at the beginning, it was like, well, we can leverage kind of a co-venture arrangement to kind of reach their customers. And also they win because, they've gotten a minimum donation at the end of the year from our organization. But really leveraging that, you can't just rely on the product selling itself. You have to, explain why it matters, what the benefit is to the consumer. And it is a unique way to kind of support the causes you care about. And also, wear a daily reminder of the things that you truly care about. And so, the thing we're doing, I think we're doing best now is a lot of these nonprofits, they're like us, they run with lean teams, they have a lot of stuff on their plate, and we can, we're providing value to them in terms of that they're getting, they have a product that's raising funds for their cause, but also we're bringing, we're telling their story. We're helping drive awareness for the work they're doing. We're not National Geographic, but we're trying our best to kind of drive awareness for what they're doing. Those partnerships are invaluable. It's something we, at the beginning, it was really hard to connect with nonprofit partners. We had really no leverage or no one knew who we were. And still a lot of times there's no real, they might have no idea who we are, but it's really just building a track record and continuing to set goals for yourself. So it was like, I was stoked when we gave $10,000 total, and that took, year or 2 years, probably more than that. And then 50 grand came a lot faster, 100 grand came a lot faster. And now we're over 150,000, but there are also e-commerce brands that have given millions of dollars. So, we want to be one of them. It's just, we definitely see it as a really unique way for, to drive awareness for these nonprofits and raise money to support their cause.
Yeah. It's all about aligning with your mission. And once you create that, I call it your MVVP, mission, vision, values, and purpose. And once you can explain those to other people and market that, then people are like, whoa, I want to be a part of that. And then they hop on board, that's why I wear a 4Ocean bracelet. Very similar. I'm sure you're aware of Cape Clasp. Yeah. Sounds like I got to get a Cape Clasp one now too. They seem a little bit more fashionable for sure. The 4Ocean bracelet is just one design, just different colors. And you're talking about how you're trying to make connections with other nonprofits. Let me see if I can help with this. Have you heard of Octo Nation?
It's an Instagram account, right?
Well, it's a nonprofit. They have a big Instagram account.
Yes, yeah, we've definitely, yeah, we've been in contact before. We haven't done anything together, publicly, but yeah, no, I do know who you're talking about. Yeah, do you know them well, or?
Yeah, I interviewed Warren, who's the founder on my podcast.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and I love everything that he's got going on. I think that would be a fantastic collaboration if you guys could get something together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that'd be super cool on a bracelet, some type of octopus design. So yeah, that being said, tell us what you guys sell, because it's more than just bracelets, right? You guys sell all types of accessories.
We kind of, so we have 3 lines. Cape Clasp is all the bronze and silver jewelry that we've been talking about mostly. So, bracelets are kind of the core of the line, but we do rings, earrings, necklaces. And then more recently, we've started 2 lines. So we have one called Ticos, which is recycled ocean plastic bracelets to start. And then we've launched sunglasses this summer. So this is like an example of those. They're just a cuff style bracelet. These were a partnership with the National Park Foundation. And so each one gives back to each one is tied to a different national park. And it's a very difficult material to work with. So we started with a simple cuff design. Those have done very well. And then we've been, working on sunglasses now, which we figured out. And then, we're kind of like, we'd love to make all kinds of stuff out of this material. And then we have a limited edition apparel line that we just come up with, really creative ways of, if you're a fan of the ocean, if you support marine life, we just have like shirts that it looks like the Friends logo, but it says sharks. So like sharks are friends. We have like a dancing sharks instead of dancing, like the dancing bears. So yeah, if you click on CC Tides at the top there too, that's where all that apparel stuff is. But yeah, we just do a lot of like cool pop culture references, and we do all those products are kind of one and done. So if they sell out, we don't bring them back. And we have like the classic coexist bumper sticker, but with all marine life instead of in place of all the kind of religious symbols and stuff you'd see on that traditional bumper sticker. So, And
for everybody listening right now, I'm on, if you go to the YouTube version, you can see their website. I'm on it right now, so we can see some of the things. This, I have a little bit of a problem with. Sharks Don't Sleep, which I think is super cool. And I love it, except just the attitude behind it of not sleeping to get things done. Right. That's something that I tell all my clients, like, you gotta sleep if you want to grow your business.
Yeah. I think, it's not like clinical advice. It's more,
right. It just looks super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea of, when our podcast was when we have like a podcast that we post very infrequently too, but it's called Sharks Don't Sleep. And, it's all like, that. And, I think the tagline we use more frequently kind of in the entrepreneurial sense is like, stop treading water and start making waves. Like, you got to get out there. You got to do what find what you're passionate about and pursue it relentlessly. And that's what the Sharks Don't Sleep is the same, is kind of that same mantra.
Love it. And you mentioned earlier about how early on some companies were trying to do knockoffs, and they were on Alibaba. And I encourage all the listeners out there to, one, look into what you're buying and where you're buying it from and who you're buying it from and what they stand for. All these bullshit products from China and Alibaba, they're super cheap, but they're contributing to plastic pollution, overconsumption. They're contributing to climate change because of that and their poor practices. And there's no mission behind it. Like, they're just trying to make a quick buck. And I personally will never consciously purchase anything like that. I always look into everything that I'm buying. Like I was looking to buy a new like mouse tracking pad because mine's getting worn out. And I looked on Amazon and every one I could find was from China. And I'm not going to buy anything from China knowingly. And so I took me like a half hour to do research on a brand that was made in America. And I bought that brand. And this is crazy, but it turns out that it was less expensive than all the other ones from China. So just please do your research and look into what you're buying and the mission behind it. Don't just buy anything that's just a product just to make money. Like that's why I wear the Four Ocean bracelet. That's everything that I'm wearing has a purpose, right? Like everything's got a story behind it. Don't just buy to consume. Overconsumption is a huge, huge problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. And from a, business owner perspective, it's really, if I think it's tough because you gotta, one, protect your brand, but two, if you kind of give these other sellers the time of day, like you try to compete with them on price, or, it's just a race to the bottom, and you really have to, I think that the best thing you can do is double down on your brand. At the end of the day, brand is all that matters. The simple example is kind of, like, even though they serve the same purpose in some way, the buyer of a Toyota versus the buyer of a BMW or a Hyundai, they're all different buyers. They're appealing to a different crowd. And on the consumer side, I do the same thing. I like to, figure out, if there is an original design, if someone, is kind of the creator of something, you'd obviously want to support that company. And at the same time, competition is a good thing. I think it's definitely made us, it's kept us on our toes. It's definitely, and it's something we don't just ignore now the way we used to. It can really, you don't want it to be, I didn't get into business to fight legal battles. So.
Yeah. And I personally will always pay, I don't know, I don't have a specific number, but so much more money for a brand who gives back and who stands for something and, is not doing as much harm as these Chinese companies that are just trying to sell a cheap product. Like, and same thing goes for food. Like you can get cheap, garbage, crap food, but I'm always going to go with the higher quality food. So just examples to be mindful of. And I want people with this podcast to try to understand that there shouldn't be any competition. Like it doesn't matter if the price is less, your brand is supporting nonprofits. Like I'm absolutely going to support that, right? Like no matter the cost. So tell people where we can find more about Cape Clasp and your different products.
Yeah. So, the easiest way to find us is online, capeclasp.com and ticos.com, TIKOS and Clasp is CLASP. That's always been a tough one to say. But we're Cape Clasp on everything, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We appreciate everyone who kind of listened in and feel free, I'm an open book. I appreciate, the time you carved out for us here, Taylor. And, happy to answer any questions people have.
Awesome, Patrick. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And more importantly, thank you so much for doing what you do and for supporting these nonprofits. I think it's amazing. Not only that, but you have a stylish product that people will actually want to wear. So very cool. Thanks again for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.